personally, I would say we have now some change of lifestyle completely.
Meet Palle Bo on an epic journey around the world. This is The Radio Vagabond.
They've just started boarding on my flight to my next destination, Minsk in Belarus. And I'm about to get on the plane and spend 4 days in Belarus. It's quite easy to travel to Belarus. You don't need a visa beforehand. At least not with my passport, my Danish passport, and I expect that goes for most passports around the world. If you fly into the international airport in Minsk, you can get 5 days of visa, just visa on arrival. And that's what I'm doing. Actually, I'm only spending 4 days because if I were to travel yesterday, my flight would be landing 5 days and a few hours before my next flight out of Minsk, so I wouldn't risk that. So that's why I chose a flight today. And also I needed to have insurance printed out in English so they can see that I'm covered, and I didn't have that, so I got in touch with my insurance company and had them translate or give me a certificate in English that I'm covered, and then I went to a place in Krakow and printed it because it's not sure that they can look at a screen. It depends on what mood they're in, a friend of mine told me. So I had it printed, so now I'm ready, and I kind of hope that I ask for it because now that I have it, now through all that hassle, then I wouldn't be at least surprised if they didn't ask for it. But anyway, I'm going to be spending 4 days in Minsk in Belarus, and I'm so looking forward to that. My name is Palle Bo, and this is the Radio Vagabond podcast.
Quick update to what I just said, in case you're thinking about going to Belarus. The 5-day visa on arrival was changed just 1 day after my visit. Now it's 30 days. It must have been because I made such a good impression on the government that they changed it.
Szczegółowe informacje na temat programu wideo znajdą Państwo na stronie bezwizdousa.pl lub w magazynie pokładowym.
This episode is brought to you in part by Hotels25.com. It's a website that helps you find the best prices on hotels and guest houses and hostels around the world. Hotels25.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have landed Minsk International Airport. It's 6 p.m. local time, and the temperature is 24 degrees Celsius. As long as the fasten seatbelt lights are on, your seatbelt should be...
Belarus has borders with Poland, Ukraine, Latvia, Lithuania and Russia, and it's a fairly unexplored corner of Eastern Europe. The population of Belarus is about 9.5 million people, which puts them on the 93rd place in the world, according to population. So somewhere in the middle. But the landmass is quite big, so it's not that densely populated. Minsk, the capital of Belarus, is about 2 million. Minsk is the 11th most populous city in Europe.
Hi. You Svetlana?
Yes.
Hi.
Hello, let's go to the park. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. That was quick.
After an hour bus ride from the airport, I came to the city and met my Airbnb host, Svetlana.
Travel is possible at any age. Your sense of adventure is just over the horizon. So, reach out and grab it. This is The Radio Vagabond.
I've arrived to Belarus and to my apartment here in Minsk, the capital of Belarus. Thank God I did the thing with the papers, the insurance documents, proof of medical insurance that I was recommended to have, because they actually asked for it at the airport. So thank God I did that, and thank God I had it, and it worked, and everything was smooth and easy to go into Belarus. And they didn't even ask to see my plane ticket out of Belarus as proof that I'm leaving. And then I was recommended to take the bus instead of a taxi here. The airport is around 30 miles outside of the capital. And so I got into a cheap bus, and now I'm here. It stopped pretty close to here, but still too far for me to walk with my luggage. So I got a taxi. I gotta figure out the currency here because I have no idea. My converter says something else, so I need to find out what the rate is. I don't know exactly how much I paid. I paid 5 for the bus and 15 for the taxi, and I think the taxi driver ripped me off. But still, yeah. Here the apartment is very nice. It's got a nice bedroom with a queen-size bed, I think. A living room here with 2 red-yellow sofas and a TV that only carries Russian channels. Then it's got a kitchen here with a gas stove, 4 plates, microwave, a huge fridge. A thing that annoys me a little bit, it's a very simple little gesture, is that the Airbnb hosts, they have a bottle of water in the fridge, and there is no such thing. And maybe some instant coffee. No, none of that in this apartment. The host in Warsaw did both things, and I think that's a very nice gesture. Here in the kitchen, there's also a table where I can either sit and eat and work. And then there's a bathroom with a washing machine and a very nice big bathtub. It looks like a jacuzzi. I don't think it is. I think it's just a regular bathtub, but it's big enough for me to soak in. And since I've had tiny showers the last many places I've stayed, I think I will soak in the bathtub tonight. Okay, I've arrived here in Minsk and I'm about to go shopping.
Radio Vagabond skal videre.
I have a Danish friend of a friend who lives here permanently. I've been in contact with him for a while. It was actually my plan to go to Belarus in the very start of my journey in 2016, but only because he wasn't in the country at the time, I decided to go later.
Goddag, Carsten.
Goddag, Palle.
Så mødes vi omsider. Det er rent faktisk...
We're both Danish, so obviously we speak Danish to each other, and you probably won't be able to understand much. So if you, on the other hand, do speak the language, head over to the Danish version of the podcast. Du skal bare søge efter Radio Vagabond i et ord, og du skulle tage at gøre det, fordi du får meget mere ud af den her episode på dansk. Oh, sorry about that. For you, English speakers, I will translate a bit of what we're talking about.
You can follow Palabo on his Facebook page. Join the conversation about traveling and being a digital nomad. You can also see pictures, videos, and stories that don't necessarily make it into the podcast. Simply search for the Radio Vagabond.
While we're walking, we pass the building where the president is working. It's not the White House of Belarus. He doesn't live here.
Nej, han bor uden for byen.
Det er bare hans kontorfællesskab.
Belarus is a dictatorship. And a few days before my visit, I shared a YouTube clip where President Lukashenko said these words, and I kid you not, "I think it's better to be a dictator than being gay." Yeah, he actually said that.
Om homoseksuelle og sådan noget. Ja. Men hvad hedder det? Hvor du så skrev det.
Lukashenko has run Belarus with an iron fist since 1994, and Belarus is the last dictatorship of Europe. It's a country where gay rights are almost non-existent, and a country with no free press. But according to Carsten, it's not as bad as people think. Yeah, no freedom of speech, and the elections might not be totally fair, but it's not North Korea, he says. There's still quite a nice quality of life here, and in his daily life, he doesn't feel like he's living in a dictatorship. When I posted the video of Lukashenko and was appalled by the statement about it being better to be a dictator than being gay, someone made this comment: "Oh, how judgmental and prejudiced you are, Palabo. When you're so biased and negative, I really don't understand at all why you choose to travel to Belarus." I heard something similar when I decided to go to North Korea, but I don't see it that way. Going to a country doesn't automatically mean that I support the leadership and the way things are run. I've also been to the US during the Trump presidency, even though I'm honestly not a big fan of him. I know that you can't compare the US to a dictatorship, not at all. But when I go to a country, it's to learn things and hopefully make some local friends along the way. I try to educate myself before, during, and after my visit, and I do feel that I also try to keep an open mind. I speak up about the things that I feel is wrong, and then I also try to talk about the good things about my visit. I also did that in my North Korea episode, where I spoke very highly of the local people. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. Is it wrong for me to travel to a country like this? Make a comment on facebook.com/theradiovagabond, drop me a line on listener@theradiovagabond.com, or record a voice message by clicking on the Talk to Me banner on theradiovagabond.com.
Ja, der er valg ind imellem, og det er hver 5. år. Men altså, alle folk, de ved jo godt, at de ved jo godt, hvem der vinder.
Det er ligesom givet på forhånd.
They do have elections here, but according to Carsten, the result is more or less decided before. And they do have a parliament, but all the people in it are in Lukashenko's pocket. When I asked Carsten if he was afraid to speak out loud about this, he says, "No, as long as I'm not protesting with a megaphone and a sign in the city, nothing will happen. Sometimes I'm a bit tired of the way the Western media are describing the country. Yes, it is a dictatorship, but many countries that we, quote-unquote, are friendly with, like Saudi Arabia, the Emirates, and China, are also dictatorships. So, according to Carsten, some things are good in Belarus. Compared to many of the former Soviet countries, there's hardly any corruption."
Noget af det gode, han gør, det vil sige modsætning til mange af de andre steder, sådan der i tidligere Sovjetunionen, så gør han jo noget ved korruption.
Maybe except for Lukashenko himself. Other good things Carsten mentions is that it's quite clean here in the city.
Du kan selv se, der er rimelig rent.
Ja, det er der.
And then it's safe. There's no need to be afraid walking around even at night here. And in the 90s, Lukashenko came down hard on the Belarusian mafia.
Han har jo hele tiden slået hårdt ned på
Carsten
mafiaen.
actually says, "So there are good things about having a dictator."
Der er nogle gode ting ved at have en diktator.
Which makes me laugh, and we decide that this quote will be the title of this episode.
Der er nogle gode ting ved at have en diktator.
And now, facts about where we are.
Here are some facts about Belarus that you might not know. Around 40% of Belarus is covered in forest, and sometimes it's referred to as the lungs of Europe. Belarus is the last country in Europe that still has the death penalty. It's the Las Vegas of Eastern Europe. When gambling was banned in Russia, a lot of casinos were opened in Belarus, which is one of the reasons so many Russians come here. Belarus is one of the few countries that do not have daylight saving time. The country has an extremely low unemployment rate, less than 1%. Beggars and homeless are also very few here. Minsk is a very green and clean city. Not only do they have many parks, but they also have the third largest botanical garden in the world. Stretching over 15 kilometers across the capital, Independence Avenue is the country's longest street. Throughout history, it's not only grown in length and width, but has also had 14 name changes. It's one of the longest streets in Europe and a candidate for inclusion in the UNESCO World Heritage List.
And that was facts about where we are. This is the Radio Vagabond.
We're heading down underground to the Minsk metro. It opened in '84 and is not that big. Presently, it only consists of 3 lines and 33 stations. Unlike the Moscow Metro, here the signs also are in letters that we can read, which makes writing it a bit easier. Not only is it a fast way to move around Minsk, it's also very cheap. A ticket that you can use all day is only around 30 cents.
Nå, men det her, det er jo så sejrspladsen. Det er jo her, de ærer de faldne fra 2. verdenskrig.
Victoria Square, in the historic center of Minsk, is the key landmark of Minsk. It's close to Gorky Park. Yeah, like Moscow, they also have a Gorky Park here, which holds an amusement park.
Tivoli, det er, hvad hedder sådan, amusement park, forlystelsespark på dansk.
In the middle of the square, there's a monument that was built in 1954 to honor the soldiers of the Soviet army and the partisans of Belarus during the Second World War. They were really stuck in the middle when Hitler and Stalin were fighting.
Så alt det Hitler han selvfølgelig havde ødelagt, de havde ødelagt, der kom Stalin og ødelagde alt det andet.
So Minsk and a lot of the country has been more or less totally rebuilt after the war.
Alt det blev ødelagt. Så alt det du ser her, det er jo sådan noget, der er blevet bygget op bagefter.
Carsten then takes me to a tiny green house and tells me a story that I did not know.
Ja, og i det lille grønne hus der var faktisk det allerførste møde, der blev afholdt i det.
In this little house, they founded the Russian Social Democratic Workers' Party, which was the forefather to the Communist Party of the Soviet Union. This was back in 1898, so before the revolution in 1917, for those of you that know your history. And it all started right here in Minsk, in this little green house. Not in Moscow.
Lige her, i den lille grønne bygning.
And then another thing I didn't know. A few meters away from this house, in number 4 of the same street, Communist Street, lived a guy called Lee Harvey Oswald.
Der boede Lee Harvey Oswald, som rejste tilbage herfra og skød Kennedy. Han boede lige hernede.
What?
Du kan godt nok ikke komme ind til lejligheden.
The guy who was accused of shooting President John F. Kennedy. Lee Harvey defected to the USSR in the early 60s after he was discharged from the US Marine Corps and ended up living right here in Minsk. But he didn't really like it here. In his diary he wrote, "I'm starting to reconsider my desire about staying. The work is drab, the money I get has nowhere to be spent, no nightclubs or bowling alleys, no place of recreation except for the trade union dances. I've had enough." Shortly after that, he wrote to the US Embassy in Moscow requesting to get his American passport back, since he never formally renounced his US citizenship. So, in other words, if there were bowling alleys and nightclubs here at the time, he might have stayed, and Kennedy might never have been assassinated. That's if you don't believe the conspiracy theories that Lee Harvey didn't do it.
The ultimate destination for armchair travelers who are looking for inspiration to get out into the real world and let loose their wanderlust. This is the Radio Vagabond. Gotta keep moving.
Today we're in Minsk in Belarus, in the eastern part of Europe, and we'll continue in just a bit. Stay with us. I've got a letter from a listener, this time from Dublin, Ireland. Hi Palle, I discovered your podcast when a friend recommended it to me, and since then I've been totally hooked. I started binging your current episodes from Europe, and after that I went back in the archives and listened to your episodes from Asia. I love following your journey, and it inspires me to travel more myself when the pandemic lets us. Normally I listen while I cook, and I'm always looking forward to hearing what happens next. Keep up the good work. Ian from Dublin. Thank you so much for your email, Ian, and I would also love to hear from you.
You can also send a few lines to Palabo and get featured on the show. Tell him where you are and what you're doing right now as you're listening to these words. Just click on Contact on theradiovagabond.com and fill out the form. This is the Radio Vagabond Podcast.
The next day we go for a drive north. Carsten's son, Simon, joins us.
Hej Simon. Så skal du råbe hej.
Kom nu.
We're heading 50 kilometers north to visit Ratin Memorial Site, where a tragic event took place during the Second World War. Khatrin was a village of 26 houses. On March the 22nd, 1943, almost the entire population of this village was massacred by a Nazi battalion in retaliation for an attack on German troops by the Soviet partisans. The people in the village had nothing to do with the attack and were completely innocent. 149 people, including 75 children under 16 of age, were killed, burned, shot, or suffocated in the fire. The youngest was a baby of only 7 weeks. The village was then looted and burnt to the ground. This massacre was not an unusual incident in Belarus during the Second World War. At least 5,295 Belarusian settlements were burnt and destroyed by the Nazis, and often all the inhabitants were killed, some amounting up to 1,500 victims. Many of the villages were burned down more than once. Altogether, over 2 million people were killed in Belarus during the 3 years of the Nazi occupation, almost a quarter of the region's population. Back in Minsk, we bump into one of Carsten's friends, Valerie, who's born and raised here in Minsk.
So I'm here in Minsk with 2 people. Valerie, you're born and raised here in Minsk, and Carsten, you're a Danish expat living here and has been living here for quite some time. So I would like to ask both of you, what's the good thing about living in Belarus and Minsk? Who wants to go first?
The Belarusian.
May I listen to Karsten first?
The people here are very, very nice, and it is Minsk is a nice city, and people are. It's very nice people here. People are very friendly. They're very open. The ones who speak English, there's not so many. Could be more, but people. That's the best thing I think to live here is that people are very, very nice, and they want to meet foreigners.
And from what I've seen so far, I've only been here for 24 hours. It's a very modern city. You have nice roads, nice infrastructure, beautiful cars, and it seems quite Western in many ways.
You have everything here, but if there's nobody who understands that, they think they have nothing here. But they have everything here. They have everything we have in Denmark or in America and England. So it's just a bit cheaper here.
My thoughts, the thing that I like about Minsk most of all is that you can find, even in nighttime, a lot of cozy bars. We have developed bar culture with making cocktails, with serving well, and with beautiful interior and good music. And it's never boring here around nighttime.
Yeah, 24/7 here you'll be able to go out.
Yeah,
and you'll never do.
You're able to get many things even at nighttime.
You will never be able to do that even in Copenhagen. And Sunday and Monday night it will be boring. You can't do anything in Denmark. In Minsk, 24/7 it's possible to find a bar or a disco or a nightclub where it's a lot of people. And it's true. It's very nice. And it's not just some...
by the way,
it's very nice place.
Cheap taxi. Yeah. It's really cheap to compare with European countries.
Yeah. But Valerie, tell me a little bit about the living standards. What's it like growing up here and living here as a Belarusian?
It's a little bit difficult for me to judge about life level, how it's been changing, but me personally, I would say we have now some change of lifestyle completely. This is some process that is happening in the whole world. We're getting closer, the cultures are mixing, and with the help of mass media as well. So more or less here, for me, it's to compare just like everywhere else. It's nothing completely different. There are some specific things, but mostly I can find here same things as I can find in many places in Europe. It's nothing completely different anymore, not anymore. People become not so grim, not so closed. When you look at youngsters, they are
young people are opening up. They speak English. They go abroad. They have internet. They have smartphones. They have Facebook. They have Instagram.
Become more open.
Yeah, exactly like all young people in Europe.
This episode is brought to you in part by Hotels25.com. It's a website that helps you find the best prices on hotels and guest houses and hostels around the world in one simple search. Hotels25.com.
That was all from Belarus. That turned out to be a great experience. Like Albania, this wasn't a country I expected much from. But if I look back at all the countries in the eastern part of Europe that I've visited in this season, Albania and Belarus are my favorites. Maybe because I didn't expect much.
Next week on the Radio Vagabond.
My next stop will be the last in this season. I'm going to the Czech Republic, and I'm so looking forward to that. My name's Palabo, and I gotta keep moving. See ya!
Produced by RadioGuru.co.uk.